Okay, we're going to begin our presentation. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Interaction of Processes and Its Importance to a Successful Audit webinar. My name is Joseph Krolikowski, and I am the Technical Director of Perry Johnson Registrars. A couple of quick technical notes here. Everyone on the call today is on mute. However, we do have a question portion of our presentation today, and I would invite you to use the question section within the dashboard. We'll absolutely make time for your questions, and be sure that everybody understands what we're trying to present today. Quick overview of our topics for today. We're going to give a little bit of background on why this is such an important item and why it has taken on such a even greater amount of importance in recent years. We're going to outline where these requirements are rooted in both the 2008 and 2015 versions of ISO 9001. We're going to talk a little bit about what is a process and what is not a process. And then we're going to wrap with some strategies on meeting this requirement with minimal changes to your existing documentation. And we'll also take a look at some common strategies that are used to fulfill this requirement. So hopefully for each of you this will be beneficial in ensuring that your IOP, your Interaction of Processes document, is as good as it can possibly be. So we'll begin with a little bit of background. Back in 2014, Perry Johnson Registrars, PJR, we were given a mandate from our accreditation bodies. We were told that we had to start taking a harder line in our assessments of client interaction of process or IOP documents. And the clause that was given as kind of justification for this is rooted in the ISO 17021 standard. Now this is the standard, of course, that PJR has to abide by to be accredited through ANAB and UCAS and the other accreditation bodies that their seals appear on your certificates. The clause that is rooted in this requirement is rooted in the following clause. An audit program for the full certification cycle shall be developed to clearly identify the audit activity or activities required to demonstrate that the client's management system fulfills the requirements for certification. Now, the emphasis here is on that phrase, the client's management system. As a certified registrar, we are expected to ensure that our auditors are performing their audits and documenting their audits in such a way that they reflect what you, the organization, have stated to be your management system. Now, where this gets difficult, our policy must be, is demanded to be, that we adhere to your interaction of processes and only your interaction of processes. Now, this extends to the audit report, this extends to the auditor's notes, this extends to audit findings. It touches in a lot of different places in how this impacts the audit process. So because we're so reliant and beholden to the IOP, if the IOP does not do an effective job of identifying the processes, the auditor's job is exceedingly difficult. And accordingly, we've instructed our auditors that if there is an IOP that does not identify processes in an appropriate manner, the auditors are they're being told to issue nonconformances and to cite the appropriate clause of the standard and say that this has not been effectively done. So what are the clauses that have bearing on this? Well, in 9001-2008, we've identified three primary clauses that mandate that an organization identify their processes and demonstrate how they interact. Two of these are taken from Clause 4.1, where it reads that the organization shall determine the processes that are needed for the quality management system and their application throughout the organization. Additionally, that the organization shall determine the sequence and the interaction of those processes. Furthermore, in 4.2.2c, which is of course the quality manual requirement, it states that the organization shall establish and maintain a quality manual that includes a description of the interaction between the processes of the quality management system. So in 9001-2008, you are required to demonstrate, document what the processes are and how they interact, and it is to be included within the context of your quality manual. Now, the requirements in 9001-2015 are very similar, but with one nuance of difference. Again, they're closely related in terms of the section that they come from. They're all rooted in Section 4. 441, in the main paragraph, it states first that the organization shall determine the processes that are needed for the quality management system. It continues in subclause B, where it states that the organization shall determine the sequence and interaction of those processes. And then in terms of having it on the record, it states in 442 that the organization shall maintain documented information to support the operation of its processes. Now, 442 is viewed in a lot of ways, but most importantly for this presentation, you have to have documented information indicating what your processes are and how they interact to support the operation of those processes. Now, in terms of what is a process, let's begin with an examination of the definition for process. Now, this is actually taken from the 9000 document, which is, of course, the Fundamentals and Vocabulary Standard that some of you may have. The definition, sanctioned definition for process, is a set of interrelated or interacting activities that use inputs to deliver an intended result. Now, what's key about this definition is the idea of interrelated or interacting activities. This establishes a key aspect of what a process is not. A process is not a single step. It is a series of activities that are focused on a shared goal. So, as we're going to see later in the presentation, the single steps really need to be understood within the context of the process that they belong to. Now, in terms of examples of items that represent acceptable process designations, now the processes that we've got listed here represent items that we are commonly told are the processes of an organization. These are what you might refer to as the usual suspects. We have sales, marketing, purchasing, production. Some companies call it manufacturing, shipping, design and development, production control. Now, of course, these are just examples. What you have to remember is that your IOP has to reflect what your processes are. Now, in terms of what do we see that's common, here in this third bullet here, this is very common. An organization that defines itself as consisting of 4 processes: sales, purchasing, production, support. And we're going to get into what that support item means in just a minute here. If this is what you understand your system to be made up of, that's completely acceptable. If there's more to it than that, that's acceptable as well. But first and foremost, it has to reflect what your organization's processes are. Now, in terms of what is not a process, the IOP documents that raise concerns and are rejected are the IOPs that present steps within a single process. What are some examples of this? Create a work order, issue a production schedule, complete the work order, package the product, ship the product. Now, these 5 items conceivably could all be part of a single process. However, they should not be understood as processes by themselves. These are individual steps. An interaction of process document that has these items and indicates these are the processes. We've instructed our auditors to question these types of process designations and potentially issue a nonconformance during the audit. Now, in terms of strategies on how to meet this requirement, we know that for a lot of our clients, for perhaps many of you on our call today, you put a lot of thought and a lot of careful consideration into the development of your IOP. And we also are well aware that for many of you, it's disconcerting to be told that a portion of your quality system that passed assessment for many years is now suddenly unacceptable. So we want to share with you that there are ways to meet this requirement with minimal adjustment to your existing documentation. What we're going to do is we're going to review a sample of an interaction of processes. And we're going to kind of go through 2 steps here on improving it. Now, please note that this example is not reflective of any client. It was created solely for the purpose of this presentation. So here's the raw IOP. And we have a number of steps here. We've got a couple of decision diamonds. When we look at this, we can kind of see, okay, you know, there's items in here. Shipping, maybe that's a process by itself. Perhaps we could look at stamping and grinding and assembly as steps by themselves. You know, but then we have something like customer order received, order entered in the mainframe, sales and work orders issued. These are not processes by themselves, at least they don't appear to be that way. This appears very much as a process flow. Of a series of interacting processes. So additionally, there are some other concerns here, and that's actually what we're going to address first. Issue number 1, the lack of support processes. Now, some of the IOPs that we have concerns with, they don't have a specific place to identify support processes. Now, it's important to note that neither 9000 or 9001, neither of them has any particular distinction on classification of processes. However, we do see in many cases that companies like to identify what their core processes are and distinguish those from their support processes. And in some cases, the distinction is such that the support processes get left off of the IOP. So what do we mean when we refer to support processes? This could include management review, internal audit, training, corrective action, monitoring of objectives, document control, records control. These kind of support activities that impact the system at large and are certainly part of the quality system, but they don't get called out on the IOP. So let's apply this first improvement to our test model here. Okay, we've got the same IOP, again, respecting the work that was done previously, but we've now added a support process item here. And we've called out management review, internal audit, corrective action, training, document and records control. And we've got these kind of disconnected arrows indicating that these items here impact and support all of this up here. This is an acceptable improvement to this IOP. Now, additionally, we feel that a good strategy, and it's a popular strategy, is to create a key that identifies what the processes are. Now, this is done usually by numbering or alpha characters. For purposes of this presentation, we've opted to use coloring to show it. Any of these approaches are considered acceptable. Again, what this enables us to do is to leave the IOP as is, but it serves the system and it serves the audit process by identifying what are the processes. So let's make this additional improvement to our test model. Okay, so now we have over here, we've identified 6 processes that make up this quality system. Sales and order entry in orange, purchasing in green, production in yellow, shipping in purple, quality in red, and support in blue. And as you can see, with the exception of shipping and support, there are numerous pieces that make up these processes. So now we've really got something. By these small adjustments, we've kept the content of the IOP as it was before, but we've accomplished 2 key items. We now know what the company's processes are, and we've included a reflection of the support processes. This is an IOP that will pass audit assessment. Now, obviously, there's numerous ways to fulfill this requirement. We have seen and accepted many varieties of IOP documents over the years. So we thought that you might appreciate seeing some additional examples, some additional ideas on how to fulfill this requirement, and perhaps use some of these ideas for adjusting your own IOP. This first item here, this is kind of a stack of steps here, a single flow. The idea is that each of these items informs the other. We've got 7 main processes called out here, and here's our support processes on the left. Here's a variation on that theme, this time with quite a few additional arrows to show the continuing interaction between these other processes. In this case, quality is kind of off to one side, showing an interaction with these main production activities. And we've got quote and shipping kind of bookending the system. And again, this management-related box here, this is kind of intended to signify the support processes. This type of approach is commonly referred to as swim lane. Here we have 4 main processes identified: sales, purchasing, production, support. And we've got some sub-steps therein. This is a way to kind of acknowledge what these individual steps are, and again, to show how they interact with each other. Sales ultimately leading, in this case, to a work order that informs production. Purchasing starting off as an independent process, but ultimately informing the issuance of work orders and also the beginning of the production process. And support down here kind of generally lending support and assistance to these 3 core processes up here. Here's one additional model. In this case, they've chosen to use highlighting to highlight what the core processes are. In this case, there are 5 of them, and the idea is that the rest of these items here can be collectively viewed as support. Now, I will mention that the slides and this presentation will both be available for reviewing. You can absolutely download the slides and feel free to use them as guidance. So in conclusion, we want to ensure that our clients have a value-added audit. And to do so, if there is mutual understanding on what the processes are, it's absolutely going to help the audit be as value-added as it can possibly be. We are hoping that the points of this presentation will help you develop an even better understanding of what your processes are. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open the question dashboard here. And okay, we've got a couple of questions on getting copies of the presentation. Again, the webinar will be available for reviewing shortly after it's complete, and the slides will be available for download shortly after as well. Are there any other questions that I can answer today? Okay. Well, I will wish everyone a good day, and thank you for your time. We've got a couple of additional questions. Got a question from Neil Roberts. Inputs and outputs, Neil. I'll be glad to help you if you could clarify your question. Jessica Dishman asks, are these changes going to be implemented for the 2016 audit? Jessica, yes. We've been instructing our auditors for some time now to be vigilant about the interaction of processes document. We've stepped up our expectations. Our new audit workbook for ISO 9001-2015 actually includes a question pertaining to this. So there is going to be quite a bit of stepped up enforcement on this. Josie Bautista asks, each core process will be audited as a pair. Josie, I believe you're referring to the AS9100 standard, and I am not an AS9100 auditor, but my understanding is that yes, a pair is a process effectiveness assessment report is prepared for each of the identified processes. Roger Wall asks, should our own internal audits be against the IOP? That is a absolute yes. Your internal audits, Roger, should absolutely be against your named processes. That's called out both in 9001-2008 and 9001-2015. They are intended to be process audits, and in terms of who identifies the processes, that is the organization. So that is an affirmative. Okay, Shelley Messing asks, is this and how is it relevant to R2 and RIOS? Shelley, I'm not an EMS auditor, but we can definitely try to have someone get in touch with you regarding that question. I do know that we are going to be giving some webinars on the sustainability standards, and I do believe that we have a webinar coming up on R2. I think that you can participate in, but I will take your name and see if we can have someone get in touch with you regarding that. Okay. Neil Roberts. Okay, we have a clarification on the question. Inputs and outputs showing how they display in some of your models. I did not see any. Okay, Neil, in terms of how to identify the processes and the expectation. The expectation of the standard is that you identify what your processes are and how those processes interact. The expectation is that the processes be called out. Certainly identifying of inputs and outputs is considered it's beneficial to that process, but we don't extend that to an expectation when we review the IOP itself. Okay. Cindy Novak asks, if I decide to maintain a quality manual, will I need a separate IOP in different areas of my quality manual? Cindy, I'm going to assume that you're referring to the requirements under 9001-2015 and the fact that it no longer requires a quality manual. Cindy, I would say that if you are opting to keep a quality manual, you can certainly continue to keep your IOP document therein, but there would be no particular expectation that it be there. If you maintain it separately, if you maintain it within the quality manual, as long as it has been done, it will be acceptable either way. Jean Carlton asks, is an IOP required for ISO 14001? You are, to the very best of my knowledge, required to identify what your processes are within ISO 14001 and determine how they interact. Jean, I will take your name down as well. And again, I know we're going to be having presentations on 14001 in the near future as well. Okay. Josie Bautista asks, how far does the auditor go back to review data trends for each IOP? Well, Josie, assuming that you have a set of data for each of your core processes, my understanding is that you would only need a single IOP. If you mean for each process, the expectation is that you will have process performance data at least as far back as when you created your quality system. Now, of course, how far back we go is going to be dependent on the maturity of your system. Okay, Charles Ozenbaugh, I do hope I'm pronouncing that right. Instead of having an IOP chart, is it okay to describe the IOP in the clauses of the quality manual? Charles, I'll say that that sounds promising as long as the processes are named and there is an adequate description of how they interact. It does not have to be a chart, a flow chart model per se. Josie Bautista asks, does each core process require a target goal? You are required to have a measure of effectiveness for your processes. However, they do not have to be unique measures of effectiveness. Okay, we're getting some great questions today. Do we have anything further? Okay. Well, we will wrap our presentation then. I wish all of you a good day. Thank you.